Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys for being here. I hope you guys are doing well. I am sorry you guys, I have been very busy all week, so I didn't get the chance to put out a video. I woke up really early today and I thought I'm gonna try my best to make a video today. So good morning everybody. If you see me sipping my cup of coffee, it's really early in the morning. Anyway, so today I'm gonna go ahead and do a follow-up in one of my videos where I talk about Harrison Butker's Homemaker speech. You probably already know that speech became quite controversial, and even on the video I made, I got mixed comments. Some people do agree that, it's not really controversial. It is very natural for a woman to be a homemaker. That word is a natural word. But there are also some people who were triggered by this. One person commented that she thought that his speech was quite arrogant. So, it is what it is. Everybody's opinion is going to be different. And by the way, for those of you who take your time to comment on my videos, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it, whether your comment is positive or negative, sometimes even offensive. I still appreciate it. You take your time to make the comment, to add the comment. Thank you so much. All right, so for those of you who are wondering, why is that speech even controversial to begin with? Of course, a lot of that has to do with when he said that the greatest title for a woman is to become a homemaker. And that word homemaker is triggering for a lot of people, especially if you don't think that a woman should be a homemaker. Of course, that will trigger you. But while reading one of the books, and I probably have mentioned this book before, it is one of my favorite books to read. I've owned this book for like 15, 16 years now, if I'm not mistaken. The book is titled Created to be His Helpmeet by Debi Pearl. Not sponsored. None of my videos are sponsored. I just really love the book. And I think this book is really good for, ladies out there, if you're praying for the husband, for a lifetime partner, if you're already engaged to someone or you're already married, this is a really good book to read. Now, when it comes to praying for a husband, I think that's really important. Start as early as you can. In fact, I started praying for a husband when I was 16. So, the earlier the better. Anyways, going back to the topic. So in one of her pages, something caught my attention in one of the pages of the book. That page is titled How to Be a Good Wife Today. Now, of course, if you're a feminist and you're anti, marriage, and, you don't agree with that idea of being a wife and a homemaker, you're probably going to be triggered by this. You're probably going to think, oh, this book comes from, that page, obviously that book in general comes from, a very religious point of view. But you'll be surprised. This specific topic came from a 1950s public high school home economics textbook. In fact, this was taken word for word. So I'm going to go through it really quick. So it's titled How to Be a Good Wife Today. Again, taken word for word from a 1950s public high school home economics textbook. So the first thing here on how to be a good wife today: have dinner ready. Plan ahead, even the night before, to have a delicious meal on time. Second, prepare yourself. Take 15 minutes to rest so that you'll be refreshed when he arrives. Touch up your makeup, put a ribbon in your hair, and be fresh looking. He has just been with a lot of work-weary people. Be a little gay. Now, the word gay here means be happy. That used to be the original meaning of it, anyways. And a little more interesting: his boring day may need a lift. Third, clear away the clutter. Make one last trip through the main part of the house just before your husband arrives, gathering up school books, toys, and papers. Basically, clean up your house before your husband arrives. Next, prepare the children. Take a few minutes to wash the children's hands and faces. If they are small, comb their hair, and if necessary, change their clothes. And lastly, minimize all noise. At the time of his arrival, eliminate all noise of the washer, dryer, everything basically that makes noise. Try to encourage the children to be quiet. Be happy to see him, to see your husband. Greet him with a warm smile. And then next to that, on how to be a good wife today, there are some don'ts. Don't greet him with problems or complaints. Don't complain if he is late for dinner. Listen to him. You may have a dozen things to tell him, but the moment of his arrival is not the time. Let him talk first. Next, make the evening his. Never complain if he does not take you out to dinner or to other places of entertainment. Instead, try to understand his world of strain and pressure, his need to be home and relax. The goal here is to try to make your home a place of peace and order where your husband can renew himself in body and spirit. So, do you see what happened in the last 50 years? Again, if you're listening to all of this, you might think, wow, I mean, that's definitely coming from a religious book. No, this one came from a 1950s public high school home economics textbook. And this one, taken word for word, everything that I said came directly from a high school textbook. And you would notice that during the last 50 years, every high school girl was taught a conservative worldview that was more biblical in perspective than what the churches teach today. That's what happened. That's why that word, the homemaker, became such a controversial word. So that's what happened during the last 50 plus years here in the US. It's a very different culture. People have a very different worldview, specifically the young people have a very different worldview because that's what they learn in school. There's definitely a big change when it comes to the educational system. If that's what's being taught in schools back in the 1950s, those things that I've shared you, then that tells me, no wonder why back in the day mothers were considered, being a mother, being a homemaker is considered a noble occupation. And nowadays, that's completely different because obviously you got many factors that affected to that kind of mindset. You got the rise of feminism, and of course, again, what's being taught in schools. And I doubt that they still teach these things in schools. If some teacher is teaching that, that teacher is probably going to get in a lot of trouble. And I've also heard of a lot of parents sharing their concerns when it comes to the things that's good things that's being removed in schools. Things like the Pledge of Allegiance, for example. That really boggled my mind. Like I would safely assume that most of these kids that are in school are American citizens, and I don't see why you would not pledge allegiance to your country if you're an American citizen. Now, I understand for those, maybe I'll try to understand for those who are here as a permanent resident, but even if you're not a US citizen and you are here as a permanent resident, I would assume you have some sort of loyalty to the country because you choose to live here. So I don't understand why they remove the Pledge of Allegiance in schools. Now, the removal of the prayers in schools, obviously that's debatable because America is a very diverse country when it comes to the religious practices, but I don't necessarily think there's a need to remove prayer, period. I mean, you can still have the prayer, and maybe kids who practice, certain, different religions can group together with their peers who they share those religious beliefs with, and then they can pray together. I mean, we've done that in one of the schools I've attended. So you don't have to remove prayer in general because prayer is good. Anyways, they've replaced that with new ideologies, and obviously we can see that these new ideologies and new teachings are resulting to a very different worldview. And whether that's what we want for a future generation or not, I mean, that depends on you. I mean, is that what you want your kids to learn in school? Someone's got to speak up on that. Now, we also have a culture where obviously a lot of the kids are spending so much time in schools because that's really the only way to live nowadays. It's very hard for families to survive in one income. So you have two parents working outside of the home, and then when the kids, are done with school, they go home to a home that there's no parents there. So there's no parenting. And so they're left on their own devices. So that's what's happening. And so certain things that used to be considered good, such as the word homemaker, is now considered triggering and offensive. That's what happens. All right, guys. I'll see you guys on my next one. Bye, everyone.